Welcome to the Lighter Side of the Spectrum, a podcast where we explore how to find joy, connection, and growth while navigating the challenges of parenting kids and teens on the autism spectrum. Remember that inclusion and hope are key to making life better for everyone, and that even in the most challenging moments, there's always a lighter side. Now here's your host, David Kaufer.
Welcome to the Lighter Side of the Spectrum, the podcast where we explore the heart and humor of parenting kids and teens on the autism spectrum. I'm your host, David Kaufer, and as always, we're here to provide insight, stories, and practical advice to help lighten the load for parents and advocates alike. Today's episode is one I'm especially excited about. We're diving into the intersection of storytelling, advocacy, and inclusivity with a powerhouse guest whose mission aligns beautifully with our own. Crystal Jordan is the co-founder of Becoming Her Magazine, an autism advocate. And Stone is here, by the way. He's happy. Okay. And a leader in creating inclusive environments. She's a mom on a mission to empower individuals and businesses through autism awareness, emotional learning, and customer service excellence. From her work in publishing and storytelling to her deep commitment to raising awareness and fostering empathy, Crystal is making a profound impact on both the neurodiverse community and the brands she collaborates with. So grab your favorite drink, settle in, and join us for another enlightening and inspiring episode of The Lighter Side of the Spectrum. So, Crystal, thank you for joining me here today.
Hi, thank you for having me. I am super excited
Yeah.
for the podcast because it's about being on the spectrum.
Yeah, we have a lot to talk about. We were just talking, ahead of time. There's definitely some things in common, but why don't you go ahead and start with your journey? What inspired you to become an advocate for autism awareness and inclusivity?
I like that question because most people are going to think it's my son who inspired me to be an advocate. And the answer to that question is actually no. What inspired me to be an advocate was me writing my book, just like you. And when I wrote it because I wanted to see more kids like my son doing the cover, because I didn't find a lot of books on the market at the time of Black kids being autistic or being the main character. So it prompted me to create the book, and it was just a hobby in the beginning. But people started asking me to be on podcast shows like yours to interview and talk about my book. I started getting interviews. And people started calling me an advocate, and God called me an advocate. So that's when I became an advocate. Originally, I just wrote a book just for fun, not realizing I was already advocating for kids like my son at the time. Because I put in that book, what is autism? I put signs and symptoms in there. I use so many different terms that most people on the spectrum would know, because that was my mission. But I didn't realize that at that time, looking back, I was an advocate. I just didn't realize.
You're like an accidental advocate. Or that unintentional. Part. Yeah, unintentional.
Unintentional.
Yeah, but advocate nonetheless, an important. Still showing a picture. He loves. So as we're talking, I have a 19-year-old non-speaking autistic son, Stone, who inspires this podcast, and he's going to hang out during the taping, but he was just showing, he loves carousels. I don't know if your son loves carousels.
Up and down carousels, right?
Yeah, just like, like a merry-go-round, right?
Yep. I take him to Six Flags here in Georgia, and we on that.
That's great. So I was going to say, talk about a little bit in terms of from a background standpoint, when was your son diagnosed? What were some of the signs? Can you talk about kind of like, because I think, again, that journey is really unique for all parents.
So my son was 2 years old when he was diagnosed. But when he was 8 months, my best friend, Desiree, she told me that, hey, I think your son is autistic, but I didn't know what it was at that point. And I said, no, I brushed it off. And then my son's doctor told me the same thing. I brushed it off because she couldn't diagnose him because she's a pediatrician. Mm-hmm. And then my son godmom told me the same thing as well. Fast forward to him being 2, I realized that he wasn't talking. It was certain signs that was there, but I didn't realize. So with that being happening, I took him in May And normally my son doctor do not take walk-ins, but she took me that day because she said, I know you're ready. Because I was, like I said, I didn't know what autism was. I didn't know the signs and symptoms back then. And she told me, okay. And she made me a recommendation to go to Market Center here in Atlanta, Georgia. I went there. They diagnosed him in October of 2019. It was on
Okay.
a Friday. So when they diagnosed him, I'm not going to lie to anybody. I cried. I was sad that day. I took him to the fair. And when I took him to the fair, I was grieving the thought of him and embracing who he was. And that Monday, I started calling APA, speech, OT, to get him services that he needed. I did the SSI, whatever I needed for him that Monday, I was doing it. So I gave myself.
That's remarkable. I mean, like you were on it right away. I mean, seriously, like just to process it and then kind of go into action mode is really remarkable that quickly. I mean, and to kind of know where to go also is remarkable because for many of us, that's half the battle. Like you said, there's definitely kind of the grief, there's the processing and right, the grieving of, yeah, and you hear when you get the diagnosis so much, I think from a society standpoint, you kind of feel like, saying it's a death sentence is over exaggeration, but there's definitely an expectation that comes with it. Like, oh my God, this is just going to be crushing sort of a thing. And they're right. But so there's that piece. And then, like I said, then figuring out, hey, what do we need to do to support our child? But you figured that out like over the weekend.
So Marcus Center, for I can say for me, they give you a resource package, right?
Oh,
and
great.
in that package, it's up to you to call this even. I just started calling companies. And I can't remember which company it was. They said to me, you just got the diagnosis and calling me on Monday.
Right.
That's unheard of.
That's unheard of.
And I was like, I'm advocating for him. I'm his voice. I can't sit in my feelings too long. I feel when parents sit in their feelings too long, you're leaving your kid behind. There's so many things that we need to do to prepare them. When I die, I need my son to be independent because I'm not going to be here forever. And because that's my mindset, and I know I'm not going to be here forever, that's probably why I move a little bit different. I'm very action-based. I believe in action plans over everything. And that's probably a problem for some people, but that's really who I am.
No, I think that's great.
I may be on the spectrum. I don't know, y'all. I may be on the spectrum. Because I did not speak until after 5. When I did start talking, when I did start talking, I sound like a robot. I did not sound how I talk now. I didn't sound like it. I was in special education. I was in pull-out classes growing up. People didn't understand me when I was talking. I was bullied. Yeah. And I realized being an advocate, I actually may be on the spectrum, but to get tested as an adult is so expensive. I took the test online, the free one, and it said I am, but I haven't officially got the diagnosis yet because it costs thousands of dollars, and I don't have that.
Right. No, right now your priority obviously is your son. And I guess, it kind of begged the question in a sense. I'm not sure at this point, like you said, it seems like it's probably enough to have that awareness and say, oh yeah, that probably could explain a lot of things, as far as when I was growing up, some of these issues or challenges that you faced. And it also probably though helps make you that much better of a mom for your son. Like the level of empathy, I mean, I think we all have, hopefully, have a certain level of empathy, especially when it comes to our kids. But I think you probably have an extra level of empathy, having gone through that. Like you said, why don't you talk about how your experience now in hindsight is shaping the type of parent you are?
I'm not going to lie to you. I'm nervous for my son to go to middle school because I was bullied so bad. I remember when I wasn't talking, I remember how the kids used to treat me. But luckily, in my son's school, he don't have that experience because the staff is so amazing. I've been to his school and I have seen they do this autism little board thing. And I was standing there watching it. The kid who was neurotypical, and neurotypical means society standard or normal. And
Right.
I don't use the word normal because I think it's offensive. I don't like that word. You would never use it. But a neurotypical kid said to me, "Oh, these are our special friends." And he said they are important just like you. It was something along those lines. And I was looking at this kid. He didn't know I was a parent. And he was talking so highly of these autistic kids and how amazing they are. He said, we got to treat nice to them. We got to be kind to them. And I'm like, what was this when I was growing up? I didn't have that. And I sat there in the hallway because I'm very active in his school. And,
Good.
and when the little kid walked off, I went to the office and I told them what happened. They said, isn't that beautiful? I said, what is so beautiful is y'all are so intentional. With the whole special needs unit in my son's school is all autistic. Y'all are so intentional. How y'all interact with our kids? It's amazing. And
That's
I cried.
encouraging. Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
couldn't believe it. It was just so beautiful to see this little kid look at these other kids who are quote unquote different and they treat them the same. I just thought that was so beautiful. But I do see adults, they don't treat the kids the same. They're special. And I have to correct people like, no, they're just like your kid. They just have a little bit things to learn differently. They learn differently, but they're just as unique as your kid.
Yeah. I mean, they're just wired differently, right? I mean, like
Yeah.
that's just, and we all are wired differently anyway, as individuals. I mean, we all have our differences and quirks and everything else, as we realize. It's just, when it comes to those on the spectrum, some of them may be more pronounced, or in our case, both of us have sons who are not verbal, non-speaking. Can you talk about that in terms of how is communication going with your
I
son?
got I got a two-part for that. So last year I lost my voice for about a month. I had no voice. So empathy for me when it comes to dealing with somebody who's not speaking is different for me because I went through it. I went through it as an adult. And that was the hardest experience as an adult to not have my voice, I had to write things and my son cannot write, to have to like use pictures to communicate and use sign language. A lot of people know what is. And that was the hardest experience. So because of that experience with me last year, not having a voice, and my voice was on and off for pretty much a couple months, I communicate with him differently. I understand his emotions more, how he communicate now. He point to things, he bring me things. Right now we're working on an AAC device. An AAC device is a communication device, you guys.
Yep.
It's a device where it's like a tablet, but it's designed to be used with speaking devices. Like it's like pictures and it says I or I want. Hit what you want and it says the word for you. And we use PEG system. PEG is a picture exchange communication system. We use that. And I'm working right now on a lanyard that when I'm out with him, he can point to the word that he wants.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm trying to be super innovative when it comes to his vocabulary. So those are how he's communicating. But how he's really communicating is breaking stuff. And I know what he wants.
Yeah.
I'm schedule based in real life. So I know, okay, he's eating at this time, he's doing this at this time.
Yeah, no, that's really great. I'm glad to hear that the AAC device and the PEC-based systems are working, at least in terms of getting some of the basic communication needs out. That's not always the case. As I mentioned, my son's 19. We had tried a lot of those AAC devices, Pro Quo, the PEC-based systems, and for whatever reason, they just weren't clicking with him. So for Stone, he was not able to really communicate effectively until just over about 2.5 years ago when he started using the spelling methodology, which is, I don't know if you're familiar with that, but that's basically using a letterboard. And because a lot of times our kids, I don't know if this is the case with your son, if he has difficulty with fine motor challenges, makes it hard for them to do activities. There's kind of a brain body disconnect that we found. So the spelling makes it easier. It's a gross motor skill, so they can start pointing to the letters and spelling. and communicating that way. And again, in our case, it totally unlocked his brain and just opened up this. It was life changing because he had spent his whole career, his academic career at that point, in the special needs program in our public education school, being kind of stuck with remedial education because they didn't think he was smart because he couldn't take standardized tests like other students. But since we've done this, he's now progressed and we've got him a private school. He's taking high school level classes. He's just finished his first semester of he finished algebra and geometry. I went blank for a sec. He finished out geometry. He never had math in school. So anyway, it just shows the potential that these kids have. That like you were saying earlier, the cognitive is there, but the communication is a big challenge. I just think it's remarkable that you talked about losing your voice. That's actually an analogy I've used in some of the speaking opportunities that I've had. I've kind of said, imagine if you've lost your voice for any amount of time, how frustrating that would be. You experienced that.
Mm-hmm. And that was a frustrating experience. To the point when I lost my voice, my manager sent me home. And since then, at my job, I'm the reason why we have autism awareness every year because I pushed it for years. I was so disappointed in them they apologized for sending me home because I had no voice. My manager at the time, he no longer works there. He said, your voice is part of the uniform. I cried. I cussed him out of sign language. He understood what I said in sign language. He said, you got it. And I said what I said again in sign language. I said what I said. And when I got my voice back, I went to HR. Because what we're not going to do, my question is, are you going to hire people on the spectrum to work here? They have no voice. Are you going to hire somebody deaf? It's big in autism. If somebody come in here and don't have no voice, you going to hire them. Are you going to say it's their voice for anymore? Because that was inappropriate. Right. I was so mad. I was livid. I will never forget. I went to my car crying. I was so mad. So the guests understood me because the guests, I would write it, or if they knew signs, I would say more or thirsty because I'm a barista. And I would, they understood. I had no problem with guests. And that right there showed me how much work I have to do as a mom and as an advocate, as the people advocate for autism. I said I have so much work to do. But yeah.
And you've talked about part of that work, right, is kind of connecting customer service with inclusivity and kind of the intersection there. Can you talk about that? Because I think that's really interesting.
So at my job, I work at a hotel, you guys. And
I'm sorry, you work where?
At a hotel.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So when I see a guest, I always know when it's an autistic guest. I treat my autistic guests very differently from how I treat a neurotypical person. If breakfast ends at 10:30 and you didn't come down, that's like a treat. But if you're autistic and you're on the spectrum, I'm gonna tell a story with this girl.
Yeah.
The mom asked me for a baby. I said, I'm so sorry, breakfast ended over an hour ago. But I saw the girl reaction, and I said, it's okay. Your daughter's on the spectrum. She said, yes, I do know. I said, I'm an advocate. I said, I'll be right back. I went back and got the girl the bagel. The girl was so happy. The mom said, thank you so much for seeing my child. And I have so many more stories just like that from my deaf guests, from the guests that come in with ADHD device and my coworkers don't understand what they're doing. I'll go up to the guest personally like, let me see what you're putting. You want that? Okay, I'll be right back. And then to the point at my job, when somebody's kid get diagnosed with autism, my manager will call me like, hey, somebody got diagnosed with autism. Will you be open to talking to them? I said, always. Just get them my number. It's no problem. Because it's not a death sentence. And you said that earlier. I feel like it's not a death sentence. The one thing that breaks my heart when I tell them I have an autistic kid, they be like, I'm so sorry. I correct like, what are you sorry about?
Right.
What are you sorry about? I'm so sorry. You're sorry for what? That's offensive. And I wish more people would understand how offensive that is when you say, I'm so sorry that your kid is on the spectrum. It's nothing wrong with my son. He is smart. He's educated. He just learned differently. And to what you said earlier about your son, I hate that he went through that in the school system, because just because, I always say this, because my son cannot talk, he understands you. He just cannot communicate. How I'm using my voice, he can't use his voice. So I hate when I hear things like that, because it's triggering, because you're thinking these kids are dumb when they're actually probably more smarter than you. They just,
Oh,
you
absolutely.
just haven't
Right.
unlocked that box yet. Like your son, you unlocked that box. But in so many ways, I see people do that, because I used to do it to my son in the beginning. I didn't think he understood me until one day I said, "Bring my phone." He stopped. He looked at me, took the phone, and came back, gave me the phone. I said, "Oh, you understand me. I've been playing the whole time." And I said, and he just, moments like that.
It totally changes your perspective. Yeah, I mean, I wish I could say that we fully presumed competence the whole time, but for the most part, we did. What I've talked about before, the difficulty, because I was lucky enough to be when Stone was about 5 or so, there was, and this is kind of the early days of social media, there was a young woman, she was, I think, a young teenager in Canada who'd gotten some exposure. Her name was Carly, and she'd gotten on, Good Morning America. I can't remember, some of these shows, but she was one of the first ones who they talked about, and she was just typing, she was one of those, again, non-speaking. The assumption was intellectually disabled, but then she blew everyone away when she sat down and just started typing on a laptop at the time, right? And she actually had a social media account. People would ask her questions. And that's when I'm like, I knew that was Stone. Like, I know that he's just locked in there and that he was smart. But what was hard is, again, as we got further along in the system, when you keep hearing over and over, "Oh, he's delayed. He does," because they're giving, like I mentioned, the standardized tests, all these things that aren't designed for him. It's hard for that not to creep into your mind a little bit and think, you know what, maybe he is a little delayed, which I feel awful for, right? Awful. But then again, once we unlocked him and saw what he's capable of, I mean, he just literally, blows me away on an almost daily basis in terms of his capabilities. And you're right, like the vast majority, and they're not all savants necessarily, but they're incredibly smart and they've learned, how to use their brains because they have to. Like they have to.
They just think differently from us. They need step by step. They need chunking. With me being an IEP advocate, I'm big on chunking information. Do not give them everything at once. Let's break it down step by
Smart.
step. And I feel like a lot of parents don't know that. So I don't. With my son weak right now, his IEP is amazing this year, because I went in as an advocate versus a parent for the first time ever.
Right.
And the IEP is so good. The principal herself was like, it was the best IEP meeting ever done. Most of his IEP is chunked down. So when I say chunk, you guys, it's like information like for his ABC. He's going to learn his ABCs, A through, I may be wrong, I think it's A through N or M.
Yeah, just by the blocks. Right.
It's in blocks. And once he get that, then it goes to the next one. And I went in, and it's something you said delayed. I don't like hearing that. So when I go into this IEP meeting, I go in with a book. I wish I had it with me. And I give everybody a booklet. And in this little booklet, it's a little piece of paper. For me, it was a booklet. It's my vision statement. And it talks about what I envision for him. It talks about me being his advocate. And it also start with a quote. What the quote is, with guidance, patience, and belief, I can achieve more than I ever believed, Crystal Jordan. And the reason why I started the IEP meeting with that quote, because I want you to understand, with patience and belief, that can achieve more than I ever imagined. Because you got to have patience. You got to believe that he can do it. And as his teacher and his support, y'all have to believe that. You have to believe like what I believe. And then I went to I know about heart at this point. It says, as the advocate for Zachariah Her, I envisioned him living independently, being a lifelong learner, and working on skills such as toileting, handwriting, knowing how to spell his name, things like that. It's deeper than that. And I always open up his IEP with that statement. Of course, I changed over time. It has his what works for him in there, what doesn't work for him. What works for him is peer modeling. I believe I do everything with peer modeling and it works. And I break down strategies, and then we go into IEP meeting. I commend the IEP first. It's yes, I'm in the school system, but first we're going to start off with his strengths, and then we can go into his weaknesses because that set the tone for what I want for him and what I believe is better for him. And I also talk about what he loves and what goals are we working on. So, yep.
Awesome. I love that. You're going in there, you're setting the bar high for the school. And again, your expectations, and you're telling them, look, again, getting back to the presumed competence, right? We're not starting with weaknesses. We're not talking about what he can't do. We're talking about what he can do and building upon that and making this, as positive. I'm blown away. I'm so impressed. There's a couple other things I want to talk about, including we're going to have our tip of the day and also kind of our autism factor fishing. We're going to take a quick break and then get back to that. I hope you're enjoying the lighter side of the spectrum. So far, we're commercial free, but if you're finding value here, one way to support the show is by considering me for a speaking engagement. I speak on unlocking potential, whether it's for individuals like my son or for entire organizations. I also offer fractional CMO services for businesses needing strategic marketing support without the full-time commitment, drawing on over 35 years of experience in marketing. My agency has helped companies and healthcare practices increase their value, grow, and even prepare for acquisition. To learn more about my speaking topics, visit davidkaufer.com. Or if you're interested in our marketing or fractional CMO services, check out kaufermarketing.com. If you're enjoying this episode, please leave a review. Your feedback means a lot, and it helps me make this podcast even more useful. Lastly, don't forget to share it with anyone who would appreciate the insights and stories we're sharing here. Thanks again for listening. And we're back in time for a couple of my favorite segments. And I know, Crystal, you said you're prepared for this. We've got actually a little professional introduction for each. So we're going to start with our autism tip of the week.
Hey, parents, gather around, it's time to speak. We're here with your tip of the week. Strategies and wisdom just for you. Autism parents, we know what you go through.
All right. What do you think about that? Pretty cool intro.
I like the song. It's really cute.
It's fun. Yeah. What do you got for us, Crystal?
Okay. So my autism tip of the week is if you're a mom or you're a dad, you are worthy and you're okay. It's okay to relax. It's okay to sit back, drink you some water, and make sure you take care of you.
That's huge, right? Can you talk about that a little bit more? I mean, because I think that's really important. As a matter of fact, again, it's something I have to remind myself constantly. Again, I say, I'm 16 years into this journey, and it's hard not to remember that. But would you mind just expanding on that a little bit?
Of course. The reason why I made it for the week, made it a little bit different from what your audience is used to, is because as an autism mom, we forget ourselves, and I feel that I'm more than a mom, and I want us to feed our kids from our overflow. Don't feed our kids from our half-empty cup. When I started taking care of myself, I take care of my son so much better, and I know that that can help so many other parents. That if we just put ourselves first, just sometimes a month. Like my self-care day is me get my locks done or me get my nails done. But beyond that, I like to go running to de-stress. And the reason I go running is because when I'm running, I'm thinking and I'm just letting things go. But I'm putting myself first because I'm taking care of my body. I'm going to live longer, and my son is going to see me longer because I'm taking care of him. Stress kills.
Awesome. Oh, it does. And it's the cliche, but it's true, right? Or the analogy, whatever saying, as far as, there's a reason when they say if you're in the airplane, the oxygen masks drop down, put your mask on first, right? Because you're not going to be any good if you're not breathing, you can't help the person next to you. So you kind of need to take care of yourself. And that's great that you run and you do, like I said, physical activity, I think, and is really helpful. For me, I've been kind of a runner for years as well. For myself, one of the things I started doing about 10 years ago was actually playing ice hockey. And yeah, it's a long story. Something I always wanted to do. My other son, so Stone is a twin. He has a twin brother. And he played junior hockey growing up. I got him into that, and some dads invited me out, and I was always intrigued by it, and I got hooked. And it's just a great outlet. I play a couple times a week, get a chance to socialize with other, other dads, other moms or whatever. It's just a great physical outlet as well. So
That sounds great.
that's my self-care is getting out there in the ice and
I
chase
love it.
that frozen puck around. Yeah.
I'm by myself doing my self care. When I go run, it's nobody with me, just me and my music.
I love that as well too. I do value that very much.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So the next segment is going to be autism fact or fiction, and we've got a little cue for that as well.
Get QuickTime ready, and here we go. This is Autism Fact or Fiction. We're breaking down what's real, what's rumor, and what might surprise you. Let's go.
Ding. Okay. Now, do you have autism fact or fiction, I should say?
I
For
have
us?
two. I have an autism fact. Autism fact is, as of 2024, 1 out of 36 kids are diagnosed with autism.
Yeah. Truth, right? Like that's remarkable when you look at that number. Compared to what it was 10, certainly 20 years ago.
I think about a couple years, about 4 years ago, it was 1 out of 54. And before that, it's 1 out of 166. Yeah, I'm full of facts when it comes to autism, y'all. I'm full of them. Ask me anything, I promise I can probably answer it.
I believe it. I believe it. Yeah, you are prepared. I'll say that.
Because I know it by heart. I don't have to Google it. I already know it.
Yeah.
I can't call myself an advocate if I don't know facts about autism. And I talk to autistic people all the time, so I know so many facts. Now my fiction is, you ready? Drum roll,
Yeah.
please.
All right. Yeah, we need the drum roll sound effect.
My fiction is autistic people or individuals of autism, however you prefer to be referred to, is not affectionate.
Oh, or not affect, right. Absolutely. Yeah, that's a huge.
That's a fact. That's not a fact. That is a fiction, because my son is so affectionate. He's non-speaking, non-vocal, but he's so affectionate. Like he kissed us right here. He hugs us.
Yeah.
He's very playful. When I hear that myth, I'm like, what's that? That's not real.
That's a huge myth. No, you're right. That's wonderful. And yeah, and again, same goes for Stone. And he has been his whole life. He's been, very affectionate. We lots of pictures of him again when he was younger, cuddling. He was a lap guy. Even now, he still likes. We will walk around, and there's times that he kind of needs the reassurance. We'll hold hands, and and I love it. I'm like, hey, as long as he wants to hold hands, I'll hold hands with him too.
Yep, my son, he like right in my back. He's 7. He's gonna be taller than me. I still carry him, y'all. Don't judge me. He's my only child, so I pick him up. He's spoiled. He's so affectionate though.
Oh, I wouldn't judge at all. I'm trying to think. I mean, first of all, if you're a kid, why not get carried as long as you can, right? That's kind of a smart strategy. But I remember that with Stone. It was about, like I said, it was about 10 years ago. So he was like 8 or 9. He still would ask for like piggyback rides. And he was getting to be a big guy too, probably like your son. And that lasted until I threw out my back. And then I was like, funny? Okay, this is done. Like,
I have a bad back. I have sciatica. So my dad always get on him, like, get off your mom's back. Because when my back goes out, it's really bad. I can't do anything. I'm like, it's really bad. But I still let him ride my back every day. I still carry him when we go in places. You'll see a big kid on my hip while I'm walking.
Yeah.
So I have events for a magazine. I will still have on my hip while I'm talking. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's, again, that's a connection. That's just,
No, he's smart because when we go out of town and he don't want to walk, he'll stop walking, and I know I'm gonna put my bag.
Yeah, they're smart. One of the things I wanted to loop back to real quick before we wrap up, because I thought this was a really good point that you were talking about in terms of the workplace and businesses and inclusion. And you're talking about like with hotels, and there's so many businesses I feel like that really could learn from. It's not just inclusion. I mean, it's just kind of smart customer service, right? If they put more of an effort into, like you said, just understanding who your clientele are. And the reason it's so smart is you also know, right? There's no greater word of mouth network, I think, than autism parents. Like if you find a business that's friendly and that's accommodating, like you're telling everyone, right? We're all like, this is who, I don't care if it's the dentist, if it's a hotel you went to, if it's right, this is where you got to go. And my God, they're gonna be the most popular autism related business. And autism parents, again, you're not afraid to spend money for that accommodation. Like if everyone's willing to be that accommodating for you, man, they've got you hook, line, and sinker, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say at my property, I'm the person that's the one that people find, and it's sad because I only work 2 days a week because during the week I'm full time mom.
Yeah.
But this year, 2025, I did talk to my HR about me hosting a class to address some things that I see within my hotel because my son came up to my job. He came to my job a lot. He came up there particularly this year. He had a breakdown. I'm not sure why he had a breakdown, but it was a
Right.
terrible experience. I was not an advocate in this moment. I was a mom. My coworkers just stared at him. Nobody helped except my manager. And I was so mad. I was so mad. And it was April. It was April. I said, how's the Autism Awareness Month? And y'all don't understand
right.
what is going on. I was so mad. So this year, I'm hopefully me and my HR come together. I'm hopefully hosting a class or something to
Awesome.
address what I saw that happened this year. Because I told them, I said it vocally, this would not happen this year because this was not okay. So one thing I can recommend to parents is you at your job, talk to your job about autism awareness and acceptance, how to address it, the signs and symptoms. When you see, if you work in a grocery store and you see a kid acting out, maybe they're not acting out.
Yeah.
Ask that parent if they need help. Like my son used to have the breakdowns in abuse by store, and you know how many people that stared at me, and I didn't care if people stared at me.
Right.
But it's so many parents that get a parent, and if I could reach somebody who don't have autistic kids, just can you help that next parent and say, hey, what do you need help with in this moment? You need me to take this to your car? What do you need?
Right.
Is it a
Yeah.
song you need to play for your son or your daughter? What is
Or turn the sound down or whatever. Right. There's all kinds of things.
It's so many things. Like I just noticed at my local Walmart, they have a Sensory Day. I literally stopped. What I was doing, I was in a rush. I took a picture and I said, wow, y'all have a Sensory Day now. If we have more businesses that understand sensory, understand lighting, music, and how to deal with a human, I'm not going to say autistic, a human, we'll be in a better place. Because our kids who become adults, they are human. And they just need a little bit more love versus somebody who's neurotypical. And I'm not saying you neurotypical, you don't need love. I'm saying our kids and our adults, they just need a little bit more push because the world is not nice. And I wish the world were more nice for our families.
It's not designed for them. That's for sure. Well, Crystal, so tell us about the book again. So anyone who's interested in the book, I want to make sure that we get that out there, as well as how can people reach you if they want to talk about your advocacy or just reach out in general.
Okay, so you guys, I am Crystal Jordan. You can find me on platforms all over. All my platforms are I am Crystal Jordan. My book of many, first book is Just Like You. And I have a series, autism awareness, autism series for positive affirmation. And that's for children, girls, and boys that are all autistic, because girls are least diagnosed them than our boys. So I want to make sure I touch on that in this episode too. You guys can email me at Crystal Jordan the Advocate. I'm super responsive. And I'm also announcement. I am dropping an Autism magazine 2025. I can't reveal the name because I got copyrighted, but the magazine will be focusing on stories like Dave, stories like myself, stories like you listening. You can email me, you guys, at Crystal and the Advocate at gmail.com, and I will forward you to the correct email because that email is super long. I don't want to say it.
Okay. All right. We can put it in the show notes.
It's so long.
Okay.
Put it in the show notes. And you guys, just reach out to me if you need me. And you can buy my books on Amazon, Walmart, BarnesandNoble.com, or ZachariahWorld.com. And if you want to do a bulk order, just email me. I'm so responsive, y'all. Just
I will vouch for how responsive Crystal is. She is great when we were planning out this episode. Well, that's going to be a wrap for today's episode of The Lighter Side of the Spectrum. A huge thank you to Crystal for joining us and sharing her story and insights. As always, if you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, share it with your friends. Let's keep spreading awareness, empathy, and maybe a little laughter. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.